Hey, what's going on, everybody? It's Samuel Akem here, and I'm back with another one. We are breaking down week 10 of FCS college football, and it was chaotic. So we got a lot to get to today. Make sure you guys stay tuned in for the entire video because we're going to break down a ton of football games. We're going to talk about some of the big 5 games that happened for me, and then we're going to know Huddle Notes is going to be really, really big. So make sure you guys stay tuned in. Whether you're riding with the Grizz, the Bobcats, or your favorite NFL team, it's time to put your sports knowledge to the test with Sportsbet Montana. Bet legally right here in state at kiosks inside your favorite local bars and casinos. Grab a drink, check the lines, and lock in your picks, spreads, over-unders, and winning parlays. Bet local, win local, and bring the action closer to home with Montana's exclusive sportsbook, Sportsbet Montana. Your game, your bets, your state. Powered by the Montana Lottery. Phenomenal weekend in FCS college football. 7 of the top 25 teams in the FCS lost, were upset, and we're going to be talking about all of them. Montana State got the victory, so we'll start with that. Then North Dakota State played a close game against Youngstown State. We will also chat about that. Idaho beat Northern Arizona to kick off the weekend on Halloween night. That game actually bled over into November 1st. In overtime. They got the victory there. Tarleton State fell to Abilene Christian. So a lot of people were happy to see Tarleton State go down. But we're going to talk about that. South Dakota upset North Dakota. South Dakota State lost to Indiana State for their second straight loss. Incarnate Word defeated Lamar. Idaho State upset UC Davis. Southern Utah beat Austin Peay. So we'll talk about all of it. There's a lot to talk about. There's a lot to get to. Please make sure you guys hit the like. Please make sure you guys hit the subscribe button. Please make sure you guys leave me a comment down below, and we will get straight into it. Okay, Montana State, the Bobcats got the big-time victory yesterday on the road against Northern Colorado. It was a phenomenal game, and the Bobcats look good, man. The Bobcats look really, really good. I currently think they are comfortably in place of the second best team in the FCS right now. Sorry about my lag of my video, but I think Montana State is comfortably the second best team in the FCS right now. Although they lost to South Dakota State, who lost to Indiana State, who Montana beat, I would still have Montana State as the second best team in the country right now due to the eye test. You know, I get the strength of schedule. All of that is a little bit stronger, but also too, I'm going to be real. I'm very upfront and very objective when it comes to analyzing Montana State. I am very real when I say I think Montana State's a better football team than Montana right now. But please, please, please stop saying that Montana State has a stronger strength of schedule than a lot of these teams in the FCS, because we know why they have a stronger strength of schedule. Please stop that. I'm so tired. I'm sorry. It's really making me angry. It's making me extremely mad. Stop it. Because the only reason their strength of schedule is tougher than a lot of the teams now, yeah, you can say UC Davis is on there, so they probably would still have a stronger strength of schedule than Montana. So I'm not arguing that. I'm just arguing the fact that people keep using the strength of schedule argument for Montana State. They have Oregon on their schedule. That is why their strength of schedule is tougher. They probably would already have a tougher strength of schedule because the UC Davis game and the NAU game, which are 2 games that Montana does not have on their schedule. I get that. But Oregon heavily overweighs their strength of schedule. Please stop it. Please stop it. I get what you're saying, but that doesn't really hold a lot of weight for me because of the Oregon game. I understand that they played Oregon, and that is part of their strength of schedule. So I hate that piece of the argument. I will give you Montana State is better. I agree there. But the strength of schedule argument for me is a little bit weak for Montana State. Back on to the Bobcats in their game. I think the Big Sky, I think the race, and I said this with Keenan on our breakdown, on our recap of Montana, but I think the Big Sky MVP race, offensive MVP race, is between 4 players right now, and I think it's going to be decided on November 22nd. I think whoever out of Lamson, Ayat, Wortham, and Gilman has the better game on November 22nd, I think that's who walks away with the Big Sky the Big Sky offensive MVP award. If I could say who's leading right now, I think based on the performance yesterday, I think Lamson has the lead right now, but I think it's still a tight race. You know, I think it's Lamson, Ayat, Wortham, Gilman, and I think whoever really has the best push to the end of the season and ultimately puts it together on November 22nd, I think that player is going to win it. And I ultimately think the winner of the brawl is going to have the winner of the Big Sky MVP on their team. So if the Cats win, Lamps is going to win Big Sky Offensive MVP. If the Grizz win, I think it's going to be one of the three, Ayat, Wortham, or Gilman. I think it's more likely to be Ayat or Wortham. And honestly, probably most likely Ayat. But we will see. I think Wortham has a strong chance to win it as well. But the Bobcats look really, really good. Only gave up 7 points yesterday, and that was when they had their backups in. I mean, this defense is defensing. They're defending. This defense is defending. They are playing at a very, very high level. Marsh Talon is his name. Talon Marsh with the thick six, baby. What are we talking about, man? That boy was moving. Yo, stats from yesterday. Justin Lamson was 16 for 22, 73% completion percentage, 331 passing yards, 3 touchdowns, no turnovers, 9 carries, 57 yards, and a touchdown. So yesterday alone, Justin Lamson had 380 yards, almost 360, 4 touchdowns, and was extremely efficient. So, I mean, you can say what you want about Lamson, about, you know, he might not have the necessarily the same numbers, same gaudy numbers as Ayat has, but Lamson is right there. And he's been playing good football. He has not turned over the ball. I think he has 2 interceptions on the season. So he's taking care of the ball better than Ayat. I'll say that. Ayat has 7 interceptions. He has more passing yards, but he does have 7 interceptions on the season. Lamson has only 2. Also, Lamson has significantly more rushing touchdowns than Ayat as well. So that's something to pay attention as well. Taco Dollar yesterday, 5 receptions, 138 yards, 2 touchdowns. Yeah, I mean, it was a good game. It was a good game. And I honestly, like, although Northern Colorado, I think, is at 3-6 now, this is a team in Northern Colorado that is better than what their record says. I mean, you look at some of their early games throughout the season, they played a lot of teams close. It was a toss-up to see whether they were going to be a 2-loss. I mean, a lot of those games were a toss-up. A lot of those games for Northern Colorado were a toss-up. They're a good offensive team. They have good offensive weapons. Braden Monroe, Eric Gibson, Carver Cheeks. I mean, those are good players who play good football. So, can this MSU defense take them all the way to the national championship this year? Once again, sorry for my camera. I really think I need to delete some data off my computer. That's why I think my camera's lagging. So I'm so sorry about that. But can this MSU defense take them all the way to the national championship this year? I think they can. Defense wins championships. I think, you know, you need a really, really good defense to be able to get to the dance and really win the dance. And I think MSU has the ability to do that. I also think, given that we saw some chinks in the armor of NDSU yesterday, I think that just evens the playing field a little bit, because I think a lot of people were of the mindset that NDSU was running away with it and it was a one-person race and everybody was fighting for second place. I think after we saw Youngstown State really go toe-to-toe with them, not capitalize, or they made too many mistakes. Without the mistakes, I think Youngstown State wins that game yesterday. But that's a game where if you're Youngstown State, you got to play your absolute best. If you're North Dakota State, you play your worst. You play probably your worst game of the season, but you still end up winning. That's what good teams do. That's unfortunately what good teams do. Unfortunate for Youngstown State. But had this team not lost to SDSU and OT early in the season, what would be the conversation about them? I think if they don't lose to South Dakota State, they are considered by many as the best team in the country. I truly believe that. I think if Montana State finds a way to gut out that win in Bozeman against South Dakota State in week 2, I really think we're talking about Montana. I really think the debate is, now they still wouldn't have as good as a resume as North Dakota State. North Dakota State would have the better resume. Therefore, I think they'd still be the number 1 team. But I think it's a serious conversation if Montana State doesn't lose to South Dakota State. Like, hey, is this team maybe better than North Dakota State? Is this team maybe the number 1 team in the country? I think that's a conversation being had. And I think despite the loss, they may still be the best team in the country right now. They just haven't been tested as much as in NDSU this season, so you can't say that at this point. But those are kind of my thoughts on Montana State right now. I think they're really, really good. I think they play really good defense. I think, like I've said all season, that's where everything starts with Montana State. And, you know, they have a really tough game coming up against UC Davis, so we'll be keyed in on that game. But I think you know, we're in a point in the season where teams are really starting to make it known who they are and who they aren't. Some of these teams yesterday really made it clear who they aren't. Some of these teams yesterday made it clear who they are. But also, you know, things are getting tougher in terms of choosing in the bracket. I mean, the polls are getting tougher. It's getting tougher to decide where teams really sit. I think it's really 1, 2, 3 right now, and then the rest of the FCS is like, I don't know. The rest of the top 25 is tough to decide because it's just so all over the place right now. So Really good win for Montana State. You guys let me know what you think about the Montana State Northern Colorado game in the comments down below, and I will move on. If she's dropping hints at halftime, it's time to make that play. L&M Fine Jewelry, local, legendary, and ready when you are. L&M Fine Jewelry is the official jeweler of Akem'S Analysis and the Samuel Akem YouTube channel. They've done a great job taking care of me and my wife during our engagement process. Let them be that diamond destination for you as well. Michael and Landy, the owners of L&M Fine Jewelry, they do a phenomenal job. So go check out L&M Fine Jewelry on American Way in Missoula or on Main Street in Kalispell. L&M Fine Jewelry, your diamond destination. Okay, North Dakota State versus Youngstown State. Bo Brungard tried and tried, but he wasn't able to get the victory. 19 for 30 was Bo Brungard, 63% completion percentage, 203 yards passing, 1 touchdown, 1 interception, 15 carries, 50 yards, 2 touchdowns, 3.3 yards per carry. It was a good game from Youngstown State, but they needed a cleaner performance. You know, they had 3 turnovers. North Dakota State, I believe, had 2 turnovers. Maybe they had 1. I think it was only Cole Payton's interception was in 1 turnover. But you can't make mistakes when you're playing against the #1 team in the country. You know, you had a strong chance to win this despite the mistakes. If you don't make the mistakes, I think they win this game. I mean, statistically, Youngstown State played better than North Dakota State statistically, outside of the turnovers. And maybe I think penalties, they won in penalty. They had more penalties than North Dakota State as well. But like, they were right there ready to win this game. And I think this film from this Youngstown State game and North Dakota State game is going to be sent around the whole FCS. I think every coach in college football at the FCS level is going to be watching this film. At least everybody who thinks they're going to, anybody who's playing North Dakota State should look at that Youngstown State film. Obviously the mistakes were made. Obviously that's something that allowed North Dakota State to win this game. But take the mistakes out of it, see what Youngstown State was able to do successfully offensively and defensively, and I think you take that and run with it, because I think there's a blueprint there. I think there's some keys to winning there for some teams who are going to be playing against this North Dakota State team. And I think that's kind of going to be the blueprint going forward, is looking at that film. But I did put that on here. Statistically, YSU outplayed NDSU, but this is one of those games that was won in the margins for the Bison. I mean, that is how this Bison team has won for years. They're going to play really clean ball. They're going to play really good defense. They're going to run the ball well, and they're not going to make a ton of mistakes. They're going to do all the small things right, and they're going to capitalize on any mistake you as a team make. So when you got that in your favor, you have to, when you got that playing against you in terms of Youngstown State, you got to play a clean brand of football, and they just didn't do that yesterday. The turnovers are ultimately the separator in this game. Youngstown State had 3 and NDSU had 1, which was a tipped dropped pass by NDSU that became an interception. So it wasn't even a turnover worthy play from Cole Payton. He hit the guy right in the chest. It bounced off the guy's chest and into the arms of a Youngstown State defender. So Youngstown State may not be a playoff team based on the amount of losses they may end up with, but they would beat a lot of teams in the FCS, and they have continuously showed that. I do believe that. I do believe if Youngstown State played against a lot of the teams in the FCS, they would come out victorious. I think a lot of the teams in the CAA, a lot of teams in SoCon, a lot of teams in UAC, a lot of teams in the Southland, a lot of the teams in the OVC, I think Youngstown State would beat Tennessee Tech. And I don't know if we potentially get to see that game in the playoffs, but I'm not so sold on Tennessee Tech, and we'll talk about that later on in the video. But my last note I had on here, NDSU showed that although they're an extremely good team, they can be beat. The film of the YSU game should be studied by every team in the MVFC for the remainder of the season and into the playoffs. Yeah, I mean, Cole Payton, 17, 24, 71% completion percentage, 194 yards, 0 passing touchdowns, 1 interception. He had 12 carries, 28 yards. Statistically, there wasn't really one player who really stood out for me. Bryce Lance had a decent game. Not Bo Brungard, but Barika Pinu had a decent game. But there was no really like one performance that you look at for this North Dakota State team that was like, oh, that guy won the game. I think it was kind of a collective team performance. And really what won them the game, in my opinion, for North Dakota State was the mistakes of Youngstown State. Now, obviously they won the game. They did enough to win the game. So I don't want to say like, oh, it was Youngstown State's mistakes that won North Dakota State the game. I strongly believe that the Youngstown State mistakes were a strong reason why North Dakota State won the game. But it was the short fields that they were given because of the Youngstown State mistakes. It was the special teams. Like, this was really a special teams dub for North Dakota State. Their special teams unit really is what led them to be victorious in this game. And you got to give credit where credit is due. North Dakota State is still undefeated. They're 9-0. Nobody's been able to beat them. Nobody's been able to go toe-to-toe with them for 60 minutes. And at this point in the season, they have the best resume. I mean, they've beat a ton of ranked teams. They beat up on a ton of ranked teams, and just the eye test just tells you that this team is really, really good. But I believe that there are some holes there. I believe there are some things that people can do to be able to maybe shake them off their pivot. But also, this could be a game for North Dakota State. I know a lot of times people say it's like you need a loss to really show a team something, but I think this may be a game for North Dakota State where they play a close game with a team that they're probably significantly better than, and you're thinking like, okay, like we can be beat. We got to tighten up. Like this, a game like this for North Dakota State will show them that, hey, we're not immortal. We can be beat. And if we don't tighten things up, we may not be victorious going forward. So good game from Youngstown State to keep it close. Really, really good game from North Dakota State to be able to come out with the victory. And they're still undefeated. So I don't know. I don't know what else to say other than, North Dakota State's the number one team in the country. They've showed that week in and week out. But I think the biggest takeaway from this North Dakota State Youngstown State game is the fact that, hey, this team is vulnerable is even a tough word to say, but just like they can be beat. I think that's the number one word from this week against Youngstown State is North Dakota State can be beat. Now, will they is a different discussion. They can be beat, and I think that kind of debunks the myth that this is the number one team in the nation and nobody's going to be able to come close to them. I don't think we're there anymore, which is a positive for the rest of the FCS because we want to see a little bit more parity. We don't just want to see one team dominate the FCS, but we may still see that. So we'll see. You guys let me know what you thought about the Youngstown State NDSU game down below, and I will move on. Okay, Idaho versus Northern Arizona. This was a very exciting game. I loved every second of this game. Idaho jumped out to a 26-7 lead in the third quarter. They had a 19-7 lead in the first half. Then in the third quarter, they scored to make it 26-7. And then NAU, I think they scored in the third quarter. It might have been a first half 26-7 lead. Either way, they were at a 26-7 lead at one point in the game. And then NAU kind of snapped out of it and was like, hey, we are a ranked team for a reason. We were a playoff team last year for a reason. We were the third, fourth best team, fifth best team in the Big Sky last year for a reason. Let's show it. And really, Ty Pennington started to play really, really good ball. He started to make a lot of throws. Kobe Katzis started to make a lot of plays. I mean, it was beautiful to watch. Ty Pennington came into the season as the best returning quarterback because he was the only starter returning to the conference. I believe he was the only starter returning to the conference. And he's the veteran. He's a guy who's played a lot of ball, and he should be playing the best ball. And he started out playing the really good ball. And then they dropped a couple to Montana State, Northern Arizona, or UC Davis, and now they dropped this one to Idaho. They got the 29-6 lead. Then Idaho drove down, kicked the field goal at the end of regulation, and then NAU got stuffed in the red zone. A holding penalty really hurt that on that screen to Stout. I broke that game down, so I'll be dropping that in a couple tomorrow. This is dropping on Monday. I'm recording this on Sunday, so I'm talking about tomorrow as in Tuesday, which is when that video will be dropping. But look out for that breakdown of Idaho NAU. Either way, though, they get in overtime. They score. A holding stalls the drive, man. That holding was devastating, man. You got to play clean ball in overtime. When games like that, you got to play clean ball, and they didn't necessarily play their cleanest ball at the end right there with that holding penalty. That dropped them back. They end up settling for 3. Credit to the Idaho defense for being able to get a stop in the red zone and inside the 5, inside the 10. In overtime, they get the ball back. Elisha Cummings takes it down to the 1 yard line, like the inch yard line on the first play of their overtime possession. The next play, they run it in. I think Cox, or not Cox, but man, it was number 37 who ran it in, but they put a fullback in there to run it in, and they won the game 35-32. Credit to Idaho. This has been a long, long season for Idaho. They've had some ups and downs, and they haven't necessarily been able to figure things out necessarily. I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that Joshua Wood missed 2 games. He missed Northern Colorado. He also missed the Eastern Washington game. 2 games they dropped. They're probably a 6-3 football team. At worst, I think they're a 5-4 football team right now if Joshua Wood doesn't get hurt. He does, unfortunately. Now they're 4-5, and I think they're comfortably out of the playoff race right now. So I think at best, Idaho can finish, I know at best that Idaho can finish the season at 7-5, which is during the season, before the season, what I said they would be with this new Thomas Ford coming in. I think he's going to have to build his culture, but I think at best they finish 7-5. I think what they can do is go beat UC Davis, finish the season with a couple of ranked wins on your schedule. I think they might play Sac State too. So if they can maybe beat Sac State as well, finish the season with like 2-3 ranked wins on your schedule, be a bubble team. If you get in, you get in. If you don't, okay, that's where we were. We have a lot to improve on from last year, but I think you finish the season on a positive note. Now, if you don't finish 7-5 and you don't kind of win out, I think either way, you're going to be looking at this season as a first year with Thomas Ford, a learning experience, and you're like, okay, we know what it takes. We know what we need to do, and we got to improve. One thing I would love to say about Joshua Wood and this is one of the biggest notes I have in my notes for this game. Joshua Wood's downfield passing game needs to improve. It's got to improve. He was 15 for 31 in this game, 48% completion percentage, 180 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception. On the ground, he had 9 carries, 25 yards. Elisha Cummins really won them this game for me. But what I want to say about Joshua Wood is, brother, the downfield accuracy is not good at all. The deep passing game from Josh Wood, he struggles with it. It's clear to me. It was clear in the Montana game. He had a couple of deep passes in that game that he could have hit that he missed. And it's been all season. He's had deep passes that he's had the ability to hit, and he didn't. Now, one thing I think it's worth mentioning is 2 of their top 3 receivers were not able to play in this game. They were missing Cortez Minjiver, and they were also missing Tony Harsty. So 2 top receivers on this team that didn't play. Credit to Joshua Wood for still being able to get the victory, because it wasn't all Joshua Wood. There were some drop passes from some of his receivers. Number 0, McCraney dropped an easy slant that probably would have went for a touchdown. Beautiful ball from Joshua Wood. It was dropped. That's not necessarily what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the deep passes, 20, 30, 40 yards downfield on the post, on the fades. Consistently, they're just not in stride with his receivers. They're pass his receiver, under his receiver. Most of the times it's like pass out of bounds. Like, he just doesn't have good accuracy on deep passes. So what I say you do, Joshua Wood, you get with your receivers, you get with your quarterback coach, you get with your receivers coach, whatever it looks like, and you guys are on the field 2 to 3 times a week this offseason. 2 to 3 times a week. And you guys are running routes on air. I know you guys got the QB Dome, so you guys got the space and the time. 2 to 3 times a week you guys are running routes, because I see the vision, man. You can be a really, really good player. You just got to improve that downfield game. I think that's what's going to ultimately hold you guys back this year. You haven't had that really explosive passing game. I think partly it's because some of your receivers haven't necessarily been able to separate all the times, but I also think some of the reason is because you haven't been able to hit them when they're open downfield. So Idaho needs to improve on that. I mentioned the missing receivers. NAU can still make the playoffs if they win out, but even then, it will still be difficult. NAU has not won any meaningful game, Big Sky Conference games this season. They lost to MSU, Montana State. They lost to UC Davis, and now they lost to an under 500 Idaho team. So when you look at what NAU has been able to do this year, they went out, they finished 8-4, yes, but you look at the resume, and the resume is not very strong. They haven't beat any good football teams, man. They haven't. Did they beat Idaho State? I think they beat Idaho State, but I don't have their schedule right in front of me, and I'm not going to pull it up. But NAU can make the playoffs. They can be that 4th team getting in, but they just got to win some quality football games. I need to see it before we get to that point. But you guys let me know what you thought about this Idaho versus NAU game down below, and I will move on. Okay, one of the big games of the weekend was Tarleton State versus Abilene Christian. Tarleton State absolutely I don't even want to say they laid an egg. They lost 31-28. Credit to Abilene Christian. That's 2 in a row that they beat Tarleton State. They beat them last year. They beat them this year. And, man, like, it's the run game, man. It's the run game. It's the run game. And I'm scrolling up to my notes from last week when I talked about this Tarleton State game. I mentioned, if you guys go back to my preview video, I mentioned the saving grace for Abilene Christian would be if they can stop the run. If they can force Victor Gabales to really become one-dimensional, force him to throw the ball, this is an opportunity where ACU can win this game. I don't have the collective stats right in front of me, but I do have it right here. Tarleton State only ran for 93 yards in this game. That is a win. Victor Gabales threw the ball 46 times for 361 yards. That is the most passes that Victor Gabales has thrown all season long. In all previous 9 games, the most Victor Gabales was asked to throw the ball was 30 times in a double overtime victory over Army. He threw 46 times yesterday against Abilene Christian. That's not because they want him to throw the ball close to 50 times. That's because they had an inability to run the ball, so they had to throw the ball. Now, credit to Victor Gabales because he had to throw the ball 46 times, and he damn near took them there. But unfortunately, they got the loss. ACU, on the other side of things, was very successful in the run. They ran for 233 yards on the ground. So you clearly see what's being the separator for this Tarleton State team. I think they had been playing really good. They played really good defense. Abilene Christian kind of not exposed that, because good offenses are going to be able to move the ball no matter who the defense is. But ACU had 2 running backs who had over 10 carries and average 8 yards a carry. They had not Trayvon West. They had EJ Wilson, who had 10 carries, 105 yards, 10.5 yards a carry. And they had Rovon Banks Jr., who had 10 carries. I put receptions on here, but it's 10 carries, 83 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Stone Earl was 16 for 25, 64% completion percentage, 202 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. He also had 9 carries, 23 yards, and 1 touchdown. Trayvon West, the receiver for Tarleton State, was hurt in the game, but he had 6 receptions, 111 yards, 18.5 yards a carry. Peyton Kramer had 8 receptions, 92 yards, and a touchdown. And then Cody Jackson also had 7 receptions, 134 yards, and a touchdown. So Victor Ballers threw the ball all over the place. Their running backs were not able to get it done. Abilene Christian is so funny, and I tweeted this. If you follow me on Twitter, you probably saw this, but Abilene Christian is so funny. They have some of the ugliest losses. They lost to a 3-6 Incarnate Word, who beat Austin Peay yesterday. So credit for not Austin Peay, but they beat I have that game on here. Incarnate Word beat Lamar. They beat Lamar. Anyway, they lost to a 3-6 Incarnate Word, and they lost to a 4-5 Southern Utah, who also beat Austin Peay yesterday. So maybe they're not that bad. Who knows? But now they have beat a number 2 Tarleton State. They beat a number 22 Austin Peay. I can't remember what Austin Peay was at the time, but they beat a now number 22. They won't be that when this video drops, because Monday the polls are going to drop and they won't be number 22. But they beat a number 22 Austin Peay, and then they also beat a ranked Stephen F. Austin. So, I mean, Abilene Christian, to me, feels like a playoff team. Even though they're 5-4, that's 3 ranked wins, then ranked wins. Whatever you want to say, they may not be ranked now. 3 then ranked wins. That is a good resume. Now, if Abilene Christian lays an egg in their last 2-3 games of the season, and they finish the season like 6-6 or 7-5, I don't know if they can get in the. I mean, they may. I mean, the resume. It's so, you take so many things into account when you're putting these teams in the playoffs, and it's not just the record. It's also the resume. It's also the strength of schedule. It's also the record against FCS opponents. It's also if they have any D1 wins. I mean, any FBS wins. I mean, there's so much that goes into account with these games. But Abilene Christian, give credit to them. They beat Tarleton State. Tarleton State, I don't know how far they drop in the polls. Abilene Christian was the 24th ranked team. They're obviously going to move up after that. I think they'll probably be top 20 within that 15 to 20 range. Tarleton State, I think they drop to like 5 to 10, maybe 10 to 12. I don't think they drop any further than 12. I don't think you can drop them any further than 12. It's only 1 loss, and they lost by 3. So I honestly think 5 to 10 is a clear range where Tarleton State should be. But they're beatable. Obviously, Tarleton State is beatable. I don't know if they were dealing with any injuries yesterday outside of Trayvon West, the receiver, but very good win for Abilene Christian. They look good. They're a funny team, but they look good. And Tarleton State, I think the key for this Tarleton State team, you've put it on film now that if you stop the run, that's where you're vulnerable at. They only had 93 rushing yards yesterday, and they lost. So I haven't looked at some of their lower totals in some of their other games, but I got to believe the run game was an integral part of all their games that they won, being 9-0. And so, yeah, I mean, obviously Tarleton State's going to go to the drawing board and try to clean some things up. Obviously Abilene Christian's going to go to the drawing board and be like, hey, we won, but how can we clean some things up? Both teams look good. Both teams are probably going to be in the playoffs. UAC is looking like a 2-bid playoff league this year. So we will see. You guys let me know what you thought about this Tarleton State versus Abilene Christian game down below, and I will move on. Okay, I kind of rushed through the breakdowns of some of the other games so that I could get to the no huddle notes, because some of these games I do want to talk about at length. In particular, I want to talk about this Idaho State versus UC Davis game, but we will get to that. First, we're going to talk about South Dakota upsetting North Dakota in a big-time Missouri Valley Football Conference game. South Dakota has been a team that a lot of people coming into the season thought would be one of the best teams in the country. They were a top 4 seeded team, top 8 seed for sure. I think they were top 4 seed last year. They made it to the semifinals. They lost to, who'd they lose to? They lost to Montana State in the semifinals. Montana State went to the national championship to play against North Dakota State, where they lost by 5 or 6. They lost. It wasn't a bad loss. But looking at this South Dakota team, they kept their playoff hopes alive with that win yesterday. They absolutely kept their playoff hopes alive. North Dakota, that loss hurts for a lot of reasons. Any team that was that beat North Dakota, and North Dakota was kind of propping up their strength of schedule, that loss really, really hurts. That loss really hurts for Montana. That loss really, really hurts for all these teams. Obviously, North Dakota is still a really good football team, but them losing, and this is exactly why you call it a trap game. This is exactly why you call it a trap game. Because right before you played North Dakota State at home, You lose a winnable road game to a South Dakota team that I think you're better than. I still think, despite South Dakota losing, now obviously the game was played, South Dakota came out victorious, so me saying this, I sound like a dumbass, but I still think North Dakota is the better football team. They didn't play the better ball on Saturday, which is what it boils down to. You got to play good when your best is needed, and North Dakota did not have their best. Jerry Kaminsky probably had his worst game of the season. He threw a couple of interceptions, a couple of nasty interceptions. Both of the interceptions looked horrible. One of them, he was trying to throw the ball away. On the other one, he was trying to target his receiver who was double covered, and it just didn't look good, man. They had 3 turnovers in the game. Sawyer Seidel had a fumble that was returned for a touchdown. I mean, just a nasty, nasty, nasty game for North Dakota, and it's something that just doesn't bode well for them as we move forward into this year. USD saved their hopes of making the playoffs and get a much needed ranked win. Is this a sign that UND is not that good, or is this just how rivalries work? Now, I don't know necessarily if South Dakota and North Dakota are a rivalry, but I know they're an in-conference rival. They play every year. I think they play every year. They play a lot of football against each other. They know each other. I gotta believe this is a game where South Dakota's going in. One, from South Dakota's standpoint, they understand that they're playing for their playoff lives. Like, if we don't start to win some football games, if we don't start to win these, I mean, we got to win out. They got to win out. So if we don't win out, if we don't win some meaningful football, we are not going to be able to play football in December. We're not going to be playing in December. Our last game is going to be November 22nd, and that is going to be the end of our season. If we don't want that to happen, we got to win these games. So they took that North Dakota game very seriously, and they took it to them. Now, they won 26-21. North Dakota, I think if North Dakota has another 15 minutes, they probably win that game. But that's not how football works. You got 60 minutes to win the game, and South Dakota did that within the allotted 60-minute time slot. So, yeah. South Dakota State loses second straight game to Indiana State at home, man. So this is their second straight game at home because, mind you, they had the marker game at home. They lost that to North Dakota in a blowout, and now they lose to Indiana State, who is not a good football team. I think Indiana State has 2 wins on the season, maybe 3 wins on the season. Just a nasty game for South Dakota State. Nasty, nasty game. And early on, I watched some of this game throughout the third quarter, but I didn't really get to watch this game. But this game is one of those games where you see the early score and you're like, Indiana State's got some fire. You know, they're trying to push the big brother. South Dakota State's eventually going to win it. You look up in the middle of the second quarter, the score is still similar the score is still similar. You look up in the third quarter, Indiana State's widened their lead. Then you look up in the fourth quarter, Indiana State's got a 2-score lead. And at that point, you're like, yo, what's going on with South Dakota State? And eventually they lose 24-12. Indiana State gets a big time ranked win. And South Dakota State, I don't know, they're reeling right now. Chase Mason really, it's really seeming like the loss of Chase Mason is more detrimental to this football team than a lot of people thought it would be. I don't know why that is the case. Because when you think about really good football teams like South Dakota State, like North Dakota State, like Montana State, like Montana, like you think of depth, like you think of, although they may not have their guy who they've chosen to be the guy, there's a lot of pieces around them that can really pick up the slack. Now, Lofton Ogroski did not play. I don't think the South Dakota State run game is as strong as a lot of people would as strong as it's been in previous seasons. I mean, they don't have the best run game. They're not even one of the top 30 rushing teams in the country. So when you think about that, they have struggled this year. I think they're going to continue to struggle against some of the better teams. Because as we've seen South Dakota State get into the thicker part of their schedule. Now, obviously, Chase Mason's a big reason why they lost this game. Let's be very honest with what that is. Chase Mason not being in this game, I think they win this game probably if they have Chase Mason. But as they've gotten to the thick of their schedule, I think we've seen South Dakota State get tested more and more and more. And that's even with Chase Mason. I mean, I think even if you ask Jackrabbit fans, they wouldn't say this has been the cleanest season with South Dakota State. Even when they were undefeated, you look at this team and you see the chinks in the armor. You see that they haven't played perfect. You see that, they have some holes on this team. So from that standpoint, I don't know. I think there's some question marks hanging over South Dakota State right now. They're obviously a formidable opponent. They're really, really good defensively. One of the top 10, 15, 20 defenses in the country right now. Maybe a little worse given their performance yesterday, but they're still one of the top 25 defenses, I would say, in the country. And they're still a team to be feared, but they have a tough finish to the season. I believe they play somebody tough this week. And then they finish the season with North Dakota on the road. So South Dakota State's got a tough road to finish the season. They got a tough road, and it's going to be interesting to see. You guys let me know what you thought about that South Dakota State loss to Indiana State. And I'll move on. Incarnate Word defeats Lamar to hand them their first FCS loss. I put FCS loss of the season. This now puts Stephen F. Austin and Sela in the driving seat of the SLC race. Both teams got big wins on Saturday. Stephen F. Austin beat UTRGV, Texas Rio Grande Valley, University of Texas Rio Grande Valley, and Sela beat up on somebody, but they won by like 40. So, but Sela got a victory as well. Both of them are undefeated in Southland play. I believe Stephen F. Austin is 5-0, and I think Sela is also 5-0. I know they're undefeated. I can't remember if they're 4-0 or 5-0, but I know both are undefeated. Incarnate Word continues to defeat good teams despite being 3-6. So think about this. Incarnate Word is 3-6 on the season. 2 of their wins this season are against ranked opponents. They have 1 win against a ranked Lamar, and now and they also have a ranked win, a 1 win against a ranked Abilene Christian. So although Incarnate Word isn't who we expected them to be this season, they are playing decent football right now, man. Like, I think every team in the Southland is going to be scared. Anybody who's in this, I don't have Stephen F. Austin and Sela's schedules right in front of me, but any team playing Incarnate Word for the remainder of the season is scared because this is not a 3. Let's be real. Incarnate Word, I don't know what's been going on with Incarnate Word this season. I don't know if it's been injuries. They just haven't played the best ball. I know they had to get their quarterback situation figured out, but this is not a 3-6 football team. So anybody playing Incarnate Word should be weary. Because they can beat you and they will beat you. Lamar still has a strong chance to make the playoffs, but they need to beat both Stephen F. Austin and Sela over the next 2 weeks to come away with the SLC's title. And the Southland Conference is getting the most exciting that it's ever been this week. Because next week, this week we have Stephen F. Austin, I believe it's Stephen F. Austin and Lamar this week. And I think next week it's Sela and Lamar who are playing. But Lamar plays Stephen F. Austin and Sela over the next 2 weeks. And that is where the Southland Conference sits at right there. Those are the 3 teams. So if Lamar can beat both of those teams, they can walk away with the Southland Conference title. They can walk away with the AQ in the Southland Conference and then maybe get a top, I don't think they can get a top 8 bid, but maybe they can get maybe a top 12. They'll definitely get a top 16 with the Southland Conference title, but we will see. But that is where Lamar, and that is really where things have been shaky with Lamar in the first place, is because you look at Lamar and you're like, oh, they're undefeated against the FCS, but it's also like, who they played. And a lot of the teams that they played a 1-score game. They played a game where it like comes down to a touchdown. It comes down to a field goal, and like they're winning by 3, they're winning by 2, they're winning by 1. Finally, they came into an opponent where it was like, nah, we're going to get up on you and we're going to keep you down. And that's exactly what Incarnate Word did, and they got the victory. So credit to Incarnate Word. They haven't looked great this year. I don't think they're a 3-6 football team. Obviously, on paper, they're 3-6, but on the field, they're a team that can beat anybody. I mean, there's a reason that this Incarnate Word, it wasn't because of what they did last year. Obviously, they lost their quarterback, Zach Calzada, but you don't look at this Incarnate Word team and think they're a top 10 team just because of what they did last year. You look at them because you look at the roster, you look at the talent that they have, you look at the returning starters, you look at all of that, and you're saying, this is a team that can do a lot of damage in the FCS. Unfortunately, football is played on the field, not on paper, and they did not do that. But given what Incarnate Word has on their roster, this is a team that can beat anybody. So the Southland Conference is up in the air. Stephen F. Austin, I'm very happy to see what Stephen F. Austin has been able to do. Sam Vidlac, the former Montana player, he's gone to Stephen F. Austin and absolutely turned it into an amazing career. And I love to see that because he started his career at Boise State. I think he was committed to Boise State, but he ended up going to Oregon State. It didn't work out. I think he might have transferred to Boise State, but he went to a couple of schools before he went to Montana. I can't remember exactly what school. It might have just been Oregon State, but he was somewhere before he went to Montana. Montana didn't work out. And then he goes to Stephen F. Austin, wins Southland Conference Newcomer of the Year, and then he ends up winning. They weren't a playoff team last year, but they were close, and he won Southland Conference Newcomer of the Year. And then this year, they're a team that has a chance to win the conference. I mean, I'm being a homer right now, whatever you want to call it. I love Sam Vidlac, and I want them to win the Southland, man. I'd really love for Sam Vidlac. I want that for him. I want that so badly for him. Obviously, the games are going to be played on the field, but I would really love to see Sam Vidlac get some high-level success, play in the playoffs, all of that stuff. So exciting Southland Conference. The Southland Conference is one of the most exciting conferences in the race to the Southland Conference title is one of the most exciting races in the FCS right now. I mean, you look at the Big Sky, it's going to come down to 2 teams. Hopefully, not hopefully, but most likely it's going to come down to 2 teams. You look at the Missouri Valley, it's most likely going to be North Dakota State. You look at the NEC, it's most likely going to be Central Connecticut. Maybe Duquesne can sneak in there. You look at the UAC, Abilene Christian kind of is in the driver's seat of that race now, but Tarleton still has a chance as well. So, I mean, there's some exciting races. I don't think any race in the FCS is more exciting than the Southland Conference race right now, given what we have over the next 2 weeks. You got Stephen F. Austin versus Lamar and you got Lamar versus Stephen F. Austin and Sela over the next 2 weeks. So we will be previewing those games coming up this week. So pay attention to that. Idaho State, man. Idaho State. This should have been one of my big four teams that I broke down. I actually should have added UC Davis in there, and I apologize for that because I should have been talking about this game, add more length, but we added it into the no-huddle notes. Idaho State upsets UC Davis on the road in the Caden Pennick return. And honestly, give me just a second because I'm actually pull up these stats because I do have a lot I want to say about this game. ESPN. Okay, give me just a second. I'm going to pull up these stats, and I want to – but – it was a tale like Caden Pennick Caden Pennick did not play a bad game necessarily. He didn't play a great game, but he didn't play a terrible game. I mean, you can't say he played a bad game when he was 25 for 32, 325 yards and a touchdown. Where you can say he did play a bad game is he had 2 interceptions and he had a lost fumble as well. So it's like you turned over the ball 3 times, brother. 3 times. And this is what I'm talking about. This is what I continue to talk about. Caden Pennick is still a freshman at the end of the day. So despite him being a very, very good player, and I think if Caden Pennick stays in the Big Sky Conference, if he stays in the FCS, he's going to end up being one of the best quarterbacks in the FCS, and he might end up being one of the most prolific passers that the Big Sky Conference has seen. Maybe not prolific because, I played against Eric Berrier. That boy was throwing 400, 500 yards a game. We might not see that for a while. But Caden Pennick has a chance to be one of the best passers. Given that he started as a freshman, he has a chance to really eat up the stat sheet. But this loss is ugly, man. Idaho State was 3-5 coming in this game, 3-6 overall. We all know Idaho State is talented. I know Idaho State is extremely talented. They got the most talent. They have the most physically gifted quarterback in the conference in Jordan Cook. They have a really good running back. Oh my goodness, I didn't even see this. Dason Brooks, 219? What? Dathan Brooks, 24 carries, 219 yards, 2 touchdowns, 9.1 yards a carry. Sion Nunley, 9 receptions, 119 yards, a touchdown. This is ultimately what it boils down to me for this UC Davis Idaho State game. 2 things. Caden Pennick is a freshman. He showed that yesterday. 2 interceptions, 1 fumble. You can't have it. You can't have it in any game. You can't have it in a game as close as this Idaho State game. But also, that UC Davis defense is not good, man. I'm sorry. I got to be fair. That UC Davis offense is not good, and I've said it all season. That is going to be what ultimately hurts them and holds them back. You need to be able to consistently stop your opponent for your team to come out victorious. And for me, I've seen them give up too much to too many opponents throughout the season for me to think that they're going to be a team that's really going to threaten for a national championship or even a deep playoff run. Like, I think this UC Davis team is like a 2nd round playoff team at best. And I'm not even trying to be harsh on them or anything like that. I just think based on what I've seen, the 2nd round of the playoffs is most likely where they get to and where their season ends, because, it gets tough. You have to, at that point, going into the quarterfinals, all of those teams have top 30 defenses in the country, have top 35, 40, and maybe honestly, Montana probably doesn't even fall in that standpoint. But also, too, like, if you don't have as good defense, you have to have an offense that can. And I think Montana, honestly, for how much flack they've taken, the Montana defense is better than a lot of people want to give them credit for. Now, do I think they're a championship defense? I wouldn't go that far. Do I think they're one of the best defenses in the country? I definitely would not go that far. But I think they do enough. And I haven't seen UC Davis's defense really stand up and stand 10 toes enough for my liking. Say what you want. UC Davis was in a close game against Cal Poly. When Montana played that Cal Poly team, they only gave up 9 points. When Montana State played that Cal Poly team, I don't think they gave up more than 17 points. I think it was 31-17 in that game. 34-17 was the final score. So, I mean, you look at that you look at it from that standpoint, and it's like this UC Davis team has had some glaring holes. They just haven't necessarily been exposed. And this is also why I would have loved to see the finish of that Mercer game, because we can't summarily say that UC Davis was going to win that game. We can't say that. Based on what we were seeing in the game, you don't know if UC Davis was going to win that game or if they were going to squander it away. At the moment of the cancellation, it looked like UC Davis was on their way to maybe squandering away a victory. But they did have the lead. Mercer had the ball, but UC Davis had the lead. So I don't know, man. I don't know. They take their first loss to an FCS opponent. And it sucks for UC Davis also because not only do they take their first FCS loss, now they're 6-2, but also they've played one less and will play one less game than the rest of the FCS and the rest of the Big Sky. So from playoff standpoint, it really, really hurts. Like from UC Davis's standpoint, the best case scenario for UC Davis was them to finish the season, let's say 9-2. Because I think they're going to lose to Montana State in Bozeman. They finished the season 9-2. That's still a good record. That's still a good playoff record. You're in the playoffs, all that stuff. I think that was the best case scenario for UC Davis. Now at this point, you're probably looking at finishes in the season 8-3. You know, what is that? 8 FCS victories, 3 losses, but you got 1 less win. So you might end up being a bubble team. You might end up being on the bubble just based on your lost to Idaho State. You only have 1 ranked win on the season against NAU. And how good is that win going to look at the end of the season? Yet to be determined. But, I mean, man, this sucks for UC Davis. This absolutely sucks for UC Davis to lose a game that you really could have won and should have won. But, you know, I think the defense, it's just defensively, man, you got to play better defensively. You got to play better defensively. Now, trust me, the Montana, everybody in this conference, I guess Montana State was the only team to really, you know, push this team down and not allow them to really go crazy. They went crazy statistically, but on the scoreboard, Montana State was able to keep them out of the end zone. But hey, Caden Pennick's a freshman. He's got a whole lot of football in front of him. I pray that he stays in the Big Sky Conference because I would love to cover him and to talk about his game, but we will see. But UC Davis moves into 6-2. Idaho State moves to 3-6. Idaho State, I don't know, man. Good win for Cody Hawkins. Good win for Jordan Cook. Good win for the Bengals. Really good win for those guys down in Pocatello. But they're just really playing spoiler for the rest of the season. Anybody who they're playing, if you have a chance to make the playoffs, we're hoping to spoil that chance. So we will see. Southern Utah defeats Austin Peay in ranked game at home, man. Austin Peay. They were ranked number 22 in the most recent FCS stats poll. At 5-3, they fall to 5-4 now, and I think there's a strong chance that Austin Peay does not make the playoffs. I think there's a strong chance now that the UAC is a too big. I think it's most likely that the UAC is a too big league now. I think if Abilene Christian is able to win out, they get in. But I think even Abilene Christian, they got 4 losses, man. Although they have 3 ranked wins, then ranked wins, 4 losses is a nasty look. Now, obviously, 2 of those losses is I think La Tech and ACU or TCU. So they really only have 2 FCS losses. So I think from that standpoint, Abilene Christian is probably comfortably in the playoff race. But I think if Abilene Christian bumps their head throughout the end of this season, they may not be a playoff team either. But Abilene Christian still has a chance to win with the win over Tarleton. Abilene Christian has a real chance to win the UAC. So if they win the UAC, they're definitely getting that. I mean, they're the AQ. They're the AQ out of the UAC, and they get into the playoffs. But Austin Peay, man, they just made it tough, man. They do have that FBS win, but outside of that FBS win, they've had some nasty FCS losses, and they've looked really shaky this year. I think that loss to Southern Utah confirms that they're not a super strong team because Southern Utah, for what their record says, they're a damn good football team, man. I'm a fan of Southern Utah. They're joining the Big Sky Conference next year, so I'll be covering them much more closely next year. But they run the ball so well, man. Joshua Dye is one of the top 5 running backs in the country. I don't think you can argue that point. Statistically, he's one of the top 5, top 10 running backs in the country. And then when you watch him, the eye test tells you that he's a really good running back. So Southern Utah and Bronson Barron grades out really well on PFF. Like, he's a really strong quarterback. He makes good decisions. He's not going to put the ball in harm's way a ton. It's just same thing I just mentioned with UC Davis. This Southern Utah defense stinks, man. They absolutely stink. Credit to Southern Utah for getting the victory yesterday. But this is where I'm at with Austin Peay. If Austin Peay is able to defeat Tarleton State in the last week of the season, that will ultimately get them in the playoffs. Southern Utah continues to push top teams in the nation to the limit. Southern Utah, for the first time this season, was able to continually get stops against good competition because their defense has not played strong. But yesterday, they showed they can get stops. But Austin Peay, I think the saving grace for them is if they beat Tarleton State on the last game of the season, I think that's their chance to get into the playoffs. But based on what I've seen from Austin Peay, I don't have any reason why I would believe that they're going to beat Tarleton State. There's no reason why I should believe that Austin Peay can walk out of the walk off the field with the victory against Tarleton State. Because still Tarleton State is still 9-1. So say what you want about that ACU loss. I believe that's probably a rivalry game at this point between Tarleton and ACU. And obviously ACU is going to bring it every time they play Tarleton State. Tarleton State did not bring it yesterday, and that is why they now have an L on their schedule, on their record. But, we will see. You guys let me know what you think about Southern Utah and Austin Peay. Harvard remains undefeated in win over Dartmouth. Harvard won convincingly against Dartmouth 31-10 to remain undefeated. Harvard has one remaining tough game on their schedule, and it's against their rival, Yale. Yale got the victory yesterday. I think Yale has 2 losses. So at this point, Yale, I think, is 5-2 with 2 losses on the season. Dartmouth is also 5-2. But weird things happen in rivalries. Princeton lost another game today, and the less quality teams that there are in the Ivy League, the less quality of a team Harvard appears to be. I believe that. The more team like you want teams that, like, a Yale being 8-2 at the end of the season looks really good for the Ivy League. A Dartmouth being 8-2 at the end of the season looks really good. So if Dartmouth can win out, that looks really good. If Yale can win, but Yale at best can finish either 8-2 or 7-3. 7-3 because they're playing against Harvard. So if they lose to Harvard, they'll be 7-3. But if they beat Harvard, they'll be 8-2, and they'll probably be the AQ. I mean, I don't know. Do you get an 8-2? You got to put an 8-2 Yale in. The winner of the Ivy League is going to get in. So if Yale can beat, but I don't know if Yale, even with a win over Harvard, can win. I don't know. The Ivy League is confusing right now. But the point of this is Harvard is undefeated. They got, to me, one more tough game on their schedule. They just actually flexed. I saw this from Sam Herder this morning. They flexed the Harvard and Columbia game. What? From ESPNU to ESPN2? Why? That game is going to be a blowout. Why would we flex that game to national television? Either way, Harvard's undefeated. They got their game against Columbia flex this week. Their next toughest game and their last toughest game of the season is going to be against Yale. So pay attention to the Ivy League as we go forward. Tennessee Tech survives against Gardner Webb in biggest game of their season. Tennessee Tech had their first big test of the season and were able to win in the end. This is not a huge win since Gardner Webb is only 5-4, but it is the only real test they will face before the playoffs. I fear this Tennessee Tech team will get blown out in the playoffs when they face a real test. I really believe that's the case. That's what we're looking at. We're looking at a team right now that is averaging 50 points a game, but when they play anybody with a pulse, they can't barely get over 30. That is a problem, man. That is a problem. Tennessee Tech looks really good, but Tennessee Tech is last year's Rhode Island, unfortunately. I'm sorry. I'm not trying to be harsh, but Tennessee Tech, to me, is last year's Rhode Island. Rhode Island was a really good team, but you look at the schedule and you're like, underwhelming. Then they get in the playoffs and it's like, underwhelming. And they didn't make it past the second round. So, Tennessee Tech looks good. They're undefeated. They'll be ranked in the top 10 as they have been, but we won't know who this team is until the end of the season. We just truly won't. We truly won't. And it's going to be a bummer because Tennessee Tech's probably going to get a first round bye. They're probably going to be a top 8 seeded team, and it's probably going to be just like, I don't know. They're 12-0. You got to give them a bye, right? You got to give them a top 8 seed, right? They do. So we'll see about that. Drake beats Butler 24-19 to remain undefeated in Pioneer League play. Presbyterian has looked good, but Drake is showing they are still the class of the Pioneer League. I know a couple of weeks ago I said Presbyterian is showing that there's a different class in the Pioneer League. Not quite so fast. Drake has still shown that they're the dominant team in the Pioneer League Conference. They've been in the playoffs the last few years. They've beaten some Big Sky teams. They've beaten some teams throughout other conferences. And Presbyterian has looked good. They still have a chance to make the playoffs, but I think Drake is going to be the AQ out of the Pioneer League because their last tough game of the season is Dayton. I think Dayton actually lost yesterday, but I think if any team were to beat Drake, I think it's going to be that team. Unfortunately, Presbyterian and Drake do not play, but Drake has a chance to win out, and they would be the AQ. Hopefully, Presbyterian could still get in after that, but we'll see. Drake final test of the season will be against Dayton in 2 weeks. Drake is now 6-2 overall. That is going to conclude. Well, actually, I got one more thing. Last thing, the NCAA, AFCA, and NFL will host an FCS showcase for draft prospects during the FCS championship weekend in Nashville. I think this is an amazing idea. I love this. I absolutely love this. The purpose of this event is to provide premier evaluation platform for about 50 FCS prospects who are eligible for the 2026 NFL draft. So you can't be a junior entering the draft. I think you have to be a bona fide FCS or NFL draft prospect, so you have no more eligibility left. I think that's going to be the players who are eligible. It will provide invited players with with a complete evaluation by NFL team scouting staffs while leveraging the national spotlight of the championship. There's a link here that I'm not going to pull up, but I love this. This is something that the HBCU started to do in connection with the Senior Bowl, I believe, where they're doing an HBCU combine. I think this is something that a lot of the Big Sky conferences, a lot of the FCS conferences need to do instead of doing pro days, because some of these, let's make it plain. Some of these schools in the Big Sky Conference are not even doing pro days, while having NFL prospects or prospective NFL players on their rosters. They're not even doing pro days. So these guys have to go to Wazoo. These guys have to go here. These guys have to go there. That is a problem, man. I think what would be better and more beneficial to every FCS player is if they adopted the Big 12 model. The Big 12 does a pro day. They put on a pro day where it's run by the conference and all the scouts are coming there to see every player. So if you have a Travis Hunter, if you have a Shadur Sanders, if you have a Tetairoa McMillan that are going to bring all the eyes for the Big 12 conference, bring those eyes to the collective Big 12 pro day. And we're going to do our pro day in front of the Big 12. They're going to do a Big 12 combine. The Big Sky, the Missouri Valley, the CAA, the UAC could all benefit from that. Do a combine at your own, do a pro day for your conference. And we're going to do a Big Sky Conference pro day where all of the players who think they're and all of the players who have NFL aspirations are going to come here and test at the Big Sky pro day. And that's going to bring all the scouts. So if you have a Troy Anderson, he's going to bring the scouts. If you have a Efton Chisholm, he's going to bring all the scouts. Like, that is the way they should do it in the Big Sky Conference. I love that the NCAA is doing this. It sucks that there's only 50 prospects that are going to be available to do it, because it's like, how do you decide the 50? Like, that 51st, those first 10 guys who don't make the cut are going to be extremely devastated. So tough from that standpoint, but I love it. They're trying. They're working towards something. So you guys let me know what you think about all these no huddle notes in the comments down below. Okay, I want to thank you guys so much for tapping into another Akem'S analysis. I want to thank you guys so much for viewing the channel. I want to thank you guys so much for growing my subscriber base. I appreciate you guys so much for showing love. I appreciate you guys so much for the support. I love doing this for you guys. I love college football. College football is my favorite time of the year. It is an amazing time, and some of the best times of the year are in August, between August and January. You know, Christmas time, Thanksgiving, Halloween, and football season. Like, come on now. My wife's birthday is in that time of year as well. Our anniversary is right before then as well. I mean, the best time of the year is football season, baby. You can't convince me any other. The only thing that's missing, which doesn't really make sense for football season, but summer. Summer's my favorite season of the year. I love the sun. I'm dark as hell, so you guys know I love the sun. But that doesn't really bode well for football. Playing football in hot weather, you don't want that. You want like 50, 60. I was talking to my wife about this. Like 45 is like the perfect football weather, because as you're sweating, you know that it's not warm outside. So if you're not running around, you feel good. When you're running around, you feel really good, because there's a constant breeze. There's a constant cold pinch of the air. Whatever. Thank you guys so much for viewing the channel. Akem'S Analysis is brought to you guys by Sportsbet Montana. If you guys are in the state of Montana, please go check out Sportsbet Montana. They're the exclusive sportsbook of the state of Montana, so make sure you guys go check out their odds, spreads, featured bets, all of that stuff through Sportsbet Montana today. Your game, your bets, your state, powered by the Montana Lottery. Thank you guys so much for tuning in to Akem'S Analysis. Come back on Thursday for our preview. I think it's going to be another exciting week in FCS football. We're coming down to the end of the season, so it's exciting things happening. Come see me on Thursday for the preview video, and I'll catch you guys then. See you later.